You're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBread.com with my self-told biscuit. I'd just like to point out a message that I was sent, which I did have to laugh at. That's like, Nightwish is in Tannerus? Guys, it's called DJing. It's where you take a song that sounds quite similar, say in terms of pacing or key or theme, and you put it after a song that sounds quite similar in terms of pacing or key or beat or theme. It's unbelievable, I know, it's crazy. Like, yes, Amaranth was in the same key, or at least it sounded like it was very, very similar to being in the same key as the Tannerus track, which is the reason it got played. But yes, first things first, you'll never hear this news anywhere else. Yes, Nightwish is in Tannerus, guaranteed, confirmed, inside sources, direct from the beta. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh well. Okay, right. Let's get on with showing, shall we? Showing sounds good. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about something you may be familiar with, I would think. It's called Grim Batol. People seem to dig that video. It had a lot of likes and very few dislikes, which is quite surprising considering the vitriol that was thrown my way when I expressed my opinion that instances should be hard. Crazy. Hard instance? No! Absolutely not! That would be insane! Yes. Well, apparently, some people were offended that I thought Grim Batol should be difficult. Because it's a normal mode, Total Biscuit. Normal modes are where they feed me epics. I lie down and a few nubile young virgins, and sadly these virgins are male because it's WoW, but nubile young virgins come along and feed me grapes and epics. That is what a normal mode is, Total Biscuit. You do not understand. You do not understand. Well, I'm fairly sure I do understand, and what I understand is that video games only work when there is challenge involved. Yeah. It's insane, isn't it? It's a concept that a lot of people don't really seem to fully grasp. If there is no challenge, it's not worth playing the game at all. That would be horrendous, wouldn't it? Why would you play a game that has no challenge? I'm trying to think of one that I've enjoyed that was not challenging in any way, shape, or form. No, can't think of one. Not one at all. What have I played in the last 6 months? League of Legends, challenging. WoW, to some degree, challenging. DDO, challenging. Command & Conquer, challenging. Recettear, challenging. Ruse, challenging. Assassin's Creed 2, challenging. Street Fighter 4, challenging. Yeah, you notice a common theme here. These are proper video games, and these video games are actually challenging. And oddly enough, the only exception in that is WoW, which is disgraceful when you think about it, because plenty of other MMOs are challenging. Now, the point of challenge is that it challenges you. Oh, God, that's a revelation! I don't think I can quite recover from that. My heart's just... it can't take it. Yeah, challenging is challenging, and challenges are indeed challenging. If they're not challenging, there wouldn't be challenges to begin with, would they? That would be silly. You call a spade when it's a spoon, do you? So it comes down to, at what point should you be challenged? And I answer that quite simply with, every time you step outside of a major city, in any capacity, whether it be in terms of daily quests, whether it be in terms of PvP, whether it be in terms of PvE raid content, whether it be in terms of simply questing, just something. Challenge me. Please challenge me so I don't fall asleep. There's a reason why, in fact, probably one of the only reasons I didn't really like BioShock all that much was because of the lack of challenge. It made the content feel pointless. It was like a slideshow. It was like walking through a hall, a gallery, instead of playing an actual video game. The things couldn't kill me, and when they did kill me, I just came right back up again with absolutely no loss of any description. It was just pointless. Utterly, flagrantly pointless. So, Grim Batol was a breath of fresh air to me. I've been playing... how many have I done? I've done, what, 5 dungeons out of the 7 that are currently available. The 2 that I've got left are the Lost City of the Tolvir and the Halls of Origination. Yes, as far as I can tell, there are, in fact, 3 dungeons in Uldum, which is a good thing, because Uldum is stonking huge. Funnily enough, there are no... It's weird. There are no dungeons, actually, in Mount Hyjal right now. At all. Which is bizarre when you think about it. There is something called the Sulfuran Keep, but you can't get in it. There's no way in it at all. I don't know what that's even for. Maybe that's access to the Firelands. I suppose that would kind of make sense, but... Yeah, it is really weird. The actual portal is not a raid portal either. It's an instance portal, so I don't really know what's going on there. Whatever the case. I did them, and 2 of them I was really disappointed by. Stone Core and Vortex Pinnacle, which, oddly enough, were higher level dungeons than the ones I really liked, which were actually level 80 dungeons. I'm talking about, of course, the Blackrock Caverns and the Throne of Tides. Both of those were actually really good. I liked them an awful lot. Whereas Stone Core had some nice aesthetic, as did Vortex Pinnacle, I might add. I mean, aesthetic is not a problem for Cataclysm. You've got to understand this. Aesthetic is one of the really strong elements of Cataclysm. It takes the old and polishes it up to a mirror shine. That's what's so cool about it, because you get instant recognition. You go to an area and like, yeah, I recognize this area. I remember questing in it, but it looks different now. And it looks better. It really does. You just need to go to Stormwind right now. You look at even the floor textures are better. They've upgraded the bloody floor textures. The whole place looks better. Orgrimmar looks better. It's higher texture resolution across the board. It's better designed as well. So much good stuff in there. I know it says they haven't updated the graphics, just isn't looking hard enough. Or as I might add, judging everything entirely off of 360p YouTube videos, which would make you incredibly dumb. Yeah, really, really silly. Grim Batol, after doing Stone Core, whereby it had a weak set of bosses, very weak. I mean, the trash was pretty good, especially at the start. Big fan of the Millhouse Mana Storm mechanic, as I like to call it. The MMM. The MM, in fact. StarCraft 2 reference. Yeah, it's very good. But the bosses kind of blow. The first one was really good, but the other 3, yeah, half bosses is what I like to call them. They have half a boss's worth of mechanic. They've got mechanics that don't synergize with anything. So what's the point in even having them to begin with? It's like, okay, well, we'll make it a boss, guys. Oh, we have to? Yes, guys, we've got to make bosses, otherwise the subscribers get upset. Okay, right, well, we could have a dragon, I guess. Oh, what can the dragon do? Well, I suppose it can have a fall from the sky. It can have, like, rockfall and maybe a breath, but mostly rockfall. Okay, cool. How do they synergize? They don't. Exactly. So what is the point? These wayward, these lackluster, these missing mechanics that are just floating around the place for no good reason at all. It's very unfortunate. Vortex Pinnacle was a little better, but it still lacked that semblance of, this is a boss that has abilities that are designed to work in harmony to kill you horribly. They had some cool mechanics, like you remember the Drake? Yeah, the Drake with the upwind and downwind mechanic. That's a great mechanic, but it's not really meshed with anything. Right? The only thing it really meshes with is the breath, which isn't going to kill you under any circumstances. Like I suggested in the video, probably the best way to deal with that would be to have it so that if you are upwind, whereby you're actually getting the bonus, you also have a stacking debuff of some description, or a dot, some kind of chill. Something that synergizes well together. That's how you do a boss. That's how bosses work. Blizzard knows this. They've designed tons of bosses like that in the past. Which is why I'm kind of distressed that... Sorry, someone just came along with a parrot in the chat. I'm like, yeah, pro. It's why I don't look at the chat while I'm doing the show, folks, as much as I would like to, as there are so many crazy people in there. If someone comes on with a parrot in a hat, what am I supposed to do other than freeze? I'm not that professional. Whatever. Now, Grim Batol. Grim Batol is the whole package as far as I'm concerned, and that's why it's such a great dungeon. It's got a cool gimmick mechanic that allows you to accelerate the dungeon if you don't suck. That's the big thing about it, if you don't suck. Such a perfect idea. Let's go back to In the Mists of Time to Zul'Gurub. If you didn't suck, you could bypass a lot of the trash in there. Yeah? You had to be very careful where you stood, but if you knew the instance, you'd practiced it, and you didn't suck, you could bypass a lot of the trash in Zul'Gurub Road. In this case, they've decided to take that mechanic and make it into something a little bit more, I wouldn't say so much proactive, but more engaging. It doesn't feel like you're cheesing it. Yeah? Avoiding packs like that is cool, but it feels a bit cheesy. It's like the instance wasn't designed for that. It's like, why would they be there to begin with if you were only supposed to avoid them, one thinks? Well, in this case, what you got with Grim Batal is the ability to drop bombs on a massive amount of trash. Yeah, you get a good run, I think all the way up to the first boss, at least. You get to drop bombs on trash on Drakes. Yeah? Here's the thing with it. This is the trick, yeah? You've got 5 Drakes, and you only get 1 shot at this run. Once you're done, you're done. You can't do it again. And if you do not kill the pack in its entirety, then it comes back at full health. Now, what that means is that there are loads of packs. You've actually got to pick and choose which packs you kill. You can't kill all of them. And if you actually spread your damage, you will kill none of them, as you saw in the video. That is such a good mechanic! God, whoever came up with that, please, Blizzard, if you're listening to this show, and I know that some of you do, so hi to Nethera and the CMs and the GMs that listen to the show. Very much appreciated, as always, that you actually listen. It's very cool. Big fan of that. Whoever came up with that mechanic, please give them a raise, or at least a donut and a coffee or something, because that is one of the best dungeon mechanics I've ever heard of. It's perfect. Just think about it for a second. You have to be a coordinated group. You have to know the dungeon, which means you've got to have done it a few times in order to get maximum possible effectiveness out of this mechanic. You have to communicate. Hell, as I demonstrated, you even have to time it so that you go on the Drakes one at a time. You saw how we mounted it 2 seconds apart? That was so we could spread our Drakes out so they weren't all stacked together, so we could actually see. And we could also, the guy at the back could try and pick off the ones that were on low health. Organization in a 5-man, it's more likely than you think, ladies and gents, thanks to this wonderful mechanic. It's so good. More of that, please. Now, what else? Well, the dungeon itself is really well designed. The trash is hard, genuinely challenging. We had 3 forms of CC in there, and we still wiped a few times. Think about that for a second. 3 out of 5 of our guys had crowd control. Now, a lot of people do have crowd control, but we had quite reliable crowd control. I mean, we're talking about, we had a polymorph and 2 trap launchers. Yeah, so we had 2 hunters in there that were able to launch those traps. And even at one point, you might notice that we had, because the tank died, we had the seagulls tanking. So we managed to tank some of the trash that way. So we had a lot of what I like to, I don't really like to call that because I don't like to swear on this show, but oh shiz mechanics. Let's go with that. Yeah, I'm in da hood at this point in time. As you can tell by my ghostly white features on the cam. I am indeed your homeboy or something. I can never really get away with homeboy. It sounds disturbing. It sounds awfully like another kind of boy that I don't really want to mention. Whatever the case. The bosses were great, the trashes were great, and we had, we weren't dumb. I mean, we weren't the best. We're never the best. I'm not the best, and I'll talk a lot about that in the next segment, actually, which is about criticism and things like that, and how to best deliver it to Blizzard. But we were challenged by a normal dungeon, and that is so very important, because that also makes me think that the heroic's going to be awesome. Some people said, the normal modes were challenging in Wrath in beta. No, they weren't, because I did them. They were not challenging at all. We breezed them. And then, sadly, we went and breezed the heroics as well. It makes me feel good about that dungeon. The bosses are inventive. Again, they could stand to have a few more mechanics. Like the end boss, a couple more mechanics would be nice. But there's some really cool stuff in there. Like the boss that has a weapon change. It's like Garfrost and Mr. Smite. So you can either call it Mr. Smite Mark 2 or Mr. Smite Mark 3. I don't really like to talk about Garfrost, because Garfrost wasn't that great a boss, but whatever. He switches weapons, and he's got this mechanic called Phalanx, whereby he's got a personal Phalanx. If you attack him from the front, he does 99% damage reduction. I would love it if we can have some raid bosses that actually did that on a regular basis. Say, like, they had only one quadrant that they could really be attacked on. I don't know. Can you do that? Do they have just I don't know how the hitboxes work. Can they detect a hit from the side? Because if they can, they should do that. It should have a boss whereby You have to keep moving constantly to attack his weak spot for massive damage, yes. And it could in fact be some kind of giant crustacean. A ginormous crustacean, as it were. Does that sound like a good idea? It does to me. I'm a fan of that. Absolutely. Overall, though, Grim Batol is such a bright hope for the future. I've got one thing to say to Blizzard. Don't nerf your bloody dungeons. You don't have to. People get better with practice. That's the point. And if they don't want to practice, they can bugger off to free realms, as far as I'm concerned, and handing quests where it involves getting toilet paper for people and NPCs. I kid ye not. That is the kind of thing they deserve. Go to hell, entitled casual whiners. My name is Total Biscuit, this is Blue Please, and I'm coming back right after the break to talk about delivering criticism to Blizzard and how to be a good beta tester. This is called Welcome to Orgrimmar, and I'll play a little bit of music after this as well to come back, and we'll do some criticism, which I'm told is not testing. Enjoy.